Another thing that Kryten said it was if people name your bikes. Well, I do name my bikes. Hello YouTubers! Today's vlog I'm gonna give a shout out to a blogger I watch a little bit often. Is Kryten. Oh, sorry mate if I didn't say that right, I'm not that much into English. He wants to know if motovloggers should talk about something else besides motorcycles. And I think yes, they should. They probably should. I'm gonna try to do a new section of my non-existent blogs because I'm kind of a lazy ass who doesn't edit that often. But shit, I hate blogging in red lights. I'm gonna make this new section. This is gonna be called Nerd Talk because I'm such a freaking nerd and I have motorcycles, so I think this is the best opportunity for me to share my opinion on some topics that are being best covered, by a nerd. I consider myself a nerd about technology. It's not that I study that much or anything like that, but I like technology. If somebody wants to know what I waste my time in, it's gonna be probably reading news and stuff about technology. The last week, this wasn't the last week, that was a few months ago, I spent a whole night reading about the undefeated digital data protection on compact disc made by Sony for the original PlayStation, the PlayStation 1. And I must say, props to Sony for making that protection system in the friggin' 90s, and that has been undefeated for so long. Why do I say this has been undefeated? I mean, everyone who knows that has a PS1 had it electronically modified to boot up CDs by using copies on CDRs or normal discs. Even if you can make a PlayStation boot from those discs, you're not quite defeating the protection, you're just modding your console. Up until now, nobody succeeded in making a CDR copy of a game that works. And this is because of a very clever trick that Sony made in the PlayStation that makes that protection nearly unbeatable. So Sony used a very clever trick to encode some information in their PlayStation discs that cannot be copied back by a normal CD recording machine. As some people said earlier when they're investigating about the PlayStation and the protection, they said that it was based on a series of errors intentionally put on the disc that couldn't be replicated. That's not right. That is not right. That's not the base of this copy protections. Those errors were actually press errors that were unintentionally left in some of the earlier PlayStation discs. The thing is, the data on the disc is pretty standard. It's a standard extended architecture disc. It's nothing out of the ordinary for a CD-ROM. The trick lies into especially encoded data that normal CD players will just ignore. This data is encoded in such a way that only the PlayStation will care enough to read that data. On a disc you have a straight track of lands and pits where the data is being read of. I think this read the right word I'm trying to use here, sorry about that. And on the PlayStation there's data encoded in form of not a straight line of data, but instead the data wobbles side to side, and that wobbling is actually a modulated signal that encodes a couple words that most small chips will replicate. Those words are Sony Computer Entertainment, Inc., America, and Europe. And that specification is actually a patent by Sony that has been published. But let me explain why you cannot copy that data back. You cannot, first of all, you cannot read it, but the specs are published so you can get to know how the encoding works and how can you encode your own data in that way. I mean, it's not hard at all to modulate the recording laser on a CD burner to try to replicate that data, but why you cannot do that? Because a CDR has already data encoded in the same way. What you're basically trying to do is overwrite the data that is already encoded on a CDR. You cannot do that on a CDR, but you can do that on a CD press. That's why some silver discs actually boot on a PlayStation. Some bootleg silver discs actually boot on a PlayStation. Those come from China, Hong Kong, wherever, and they were made professionally made in they were professionally mastered the same way an original PlayStation disc works. And that was the nerd talk of today. Props to Sony for making, I think, one of the, even if it was simple, it has been unbeaten for so many years. I mean, where are we now? In 2014, more than 20 years since the original PlayStation, I think. I don't know, PlayStation was 1995. Okay, 19 years, the same thing. But it has been undefeated. It has been greatly undefeated. It's just a clever trick applied in such a way that protects your stuff.